Welcome to Barking Mad with Cookies, day 3. Today we're going to be looking about desensitization and counter conditioning. If you remember yesterday, our game involved working without distractions, but taking our dog to the area where the distraction may be when the distraction wasn't there, and then leading them away with our hand target or food lure. So today we're going to kind of look at the next step and how we do it when we're adding distractions. We also talked a little bit yesterday about controlled distractions, uncontrolled distractions, and predictable distractions. So that's super helpful. If you didn't watch day 2 yet, I suggest you go back and watch day 2. That might make today make a little bit more sense. So today we're going to look at what is desensitization and counter conditioning and how we use that when we're working on trying to reduce the barking. And so, I mean, I can share tons of blog posts with you, and I'll put one in the show notes here about exactly what is desensitization and counter conditioning. But the Cliff Notes version is desensitization is kind of teaching the dog that distraction doesn't impact their day to day as much as they think. You know, they don't need to do anything around that distraction. I have to grab my puppy chow here. But it also is that way to get them to see that, oh yeah, there's a dog, I can keep walking and sniffing over here, that dog's not going to come bother me. Or oh yeah, hey, there's the garbage truck. So counter conditioning is when we take something that object, whatever it is, that dog, that garbage truck, that mailman, that shopping cart, when we take that object that a dog already has a negative association to or a negative fear emotion based to it, and we're changing that. And it might not necessarily just be fear. It could be overexcitement. It could be frustration. There's a lot of different emotions possible, but whatever our dog has that elevated emotional level, counter conditioning is changing that negative feeling to a positive feeling. So the two work hand in hand together, because you can't really desensitize a dog to thinking that a certain thing should be neutral and not important in life without counter conditioning and working to change the emotion. So if our dogs are barking, they're either rising the chart towards a fear state or rising the chart towards an overexcitement, overwhelmed state, because maybe they just really want to see daddy who just pulled into the driveway. So now they're going nuts barking at their family member that they know. So we have to it doesn't really matter which one it is when it comes to barking. We're going to do the training the same way. The big difference is if it is a fear-based response versus an overexcitement-based response, we have to be super careful with the fear-based responses, not to push the dog too far too fast. It's really easy to do. And when it's overexcitement-based, then we're not trying to change a negative emotion into a positive emotion. Instead, we're trying to just decrease how positive that emotion is to bring it more back to a neutral or manageable state, a state that the dog can self-regulate versus get overexcited about. So that is our goal for today. So we're going to start to add in distractions. And when you pick your distraction that you're going to play this game with, don't go for the top number one thing that is driving you nuts where your dog is barking the most, right? You want to start with something that is easy for your dog, something that your dog barks at a little bit. If you have something that your dog barks at with that positive emotion of happy, hey, daddy just pulled in the driveway kind of thing, then start with something like that versus something that really terrifies your dog. We do not want to start with something that has your dog totally fearful, because that's going to be much harder. We want the dog to really learn the games that we're playing well and be able to play them inside and out, backwards, forwards, at a moment's notice before we do that. So there's a couple of things, and I mean, you could call them pet peeves. They drive me a little crazy. But a couple of things that aren't talked about a lot with desensitization and counter conditioning. And one of them is the level of food that people use or try to use in this situation. because it worked in the past. So like right now, Bella's young. She's a year old. She's a total foodie. She's been sitting here eating small pieces of kibble the whole time to help her calm down. But so she will eat anything. And I can literally take my kibble out in the grass and sprinkle it around when there's distractions around, and she's gonna eat it because she will eat anything, right? Azul, however, isn't gonna eat that kibble if there's something he wants to watch. So we tend to automatically then up our food level and get higher and higher and higher until we find something that works. And in a way, that's a good thing, but we can also max out and run out of options if nothing works, right? So it's easier when it's an overexcitement based thing to find kind of a mid-level, high enough value, but still low enough value that it's not going to break the bank and you're not going to make your dog sick by giving them too much of it. And that's usually something like hot dogs or cheese or chicken. But we can find that middle level easier. When it's fear-based, however, a lot of times people will say, and I hear it all the time, my dog's not food motivated. Well, Azul is not food motivated most of the time. He's got about an hour a day where he actually will take food and a game and treats. And he's been that way for almost 2 years. Has nothing to do with the distractions that are around. So there is, being non-food motivated is a thing. But in a lot of situations, and I had to learn this the hard way, dogs will, like, they can't take food if they're afraid. And if we're not recognizing their fear signs, if their signs of fear are something or quieter, so if they're barking and yelling at us, so it can be very easy to know that they're afraid of something, right? Azul's fear signs when he was a teenager was a freeze. He would stop, stare, and be unable to move. I didn't recognize that. I thought he was just being calm. He would lay down this perfect settle that we would want from a well-trained dog, right? That's what it looked like to me. But it wasn't. He was actually afraid of those other dogs coming, not knowing what was going to happen. And obviously there's a lot of dogs out there that are undertrained. So he would expect that dog as they walk by to jump at him. And so he would be ready to spring into action if they did. So that's when I started realizing that it was a fear thing and we needed to be more careful and make sure we had more distance for a little while because Azul was still young and couldn't control it. But because he isn't food motivated, and B, his fear signs were so calm looking, I didn't pick up on it right away. So I want to make sure that we're recognizing that and kind of considering that when we're doing this training, because we may think it's excitement based. Bella's actually kind of the opposite in that when she's barking, she looks and sounds like she's fierce because she's got this big German Shepherd bark and this tiny little small black lab body. And so she sounds fierce. But for somebody who knows body language well, you can tell she's all loose, wiggly, goofy bodied, that kind of thing. So I knew that she was overexcited versus fearful, but that can be really hard to tell. So I just wanted to kind of caution people about that today.
And if in doubt, if you're not sure whether it's overexcitement or fear, err on the
like
side
fear.
of the fear, because they're much better at masking fear than they are overexcitement. And it can come overexcitement fear can come off very similar. So if in doubt, err on the side of they're afraid, not that they're excited.
So I used an example in a post I was doing somewhere. I don't even remember where it was. But they were talking about food motivated, and they had already said that their dog was totally filled with anxiety. They had only had the dog in their house about 6 months, and it was the worst case of fear they've ever seen in a dog, right? But their dog wasn't food motivated. And it's not this one post in particular that bugs me, but because I see it all the time. So I use the story that and it's fact. This time of year, there's mice in our area that tend to try to find their way indoors. So almost everywhere you go, every home, every every business, everything. Like I've had mice run in front of me at Walmart. So it happens. And mice is my phobia. So I love chocolate cake. And I mean, if there's a chocolate cake in the kitchen and I can go in and get a piece late at night when everyone's in bed, and I mean, I'll do it when people are awake too. I don't mind eating in front of people. But if I can do that, I will. Yeah, I mean, if it's sitting there, I'm eating it, right? But if there's any hint of there possibly being a mouse in the kitchen, I cannot make myself brave enough to go in and get that cake. I want it. It's there. But me, as a thinking human and knowing what I know about fears, cannot brave myself to step in that kitchen. If I think even there's an inkling thought of a mouse in that kitchen. And that's kind of where our dogs are when it comes to fear. They may want that chicken. They may really want it because they love chicken, but they can't take it in that moment. And the reason behind that is that our body changes chemicals when we go into that fear state of thinking, where our stomach literally shuts down. The body's trying to conserve energy, put as much strength into our muscles so that we can fight or run away as needed, and we can stay alive by running away or fighting. So our body is trying to dump adrenaline into our system, and the stomach shuts down to conserve energy. Anything that's not a vital system, like your heart and your lungs and all of that, are vital systems. They don't shut down, but all your other ones will shut down temporarily. So that's why our dogs are not taking food in those places. I mean, whether they're over aroused or whether they're fearful, their stomach is still in a state of being unable to process what's coming in because their body is too pumped filled with adrenaline to be able to do that. Make sense? A
I'm
little bit
I'm
of
just
a biology lesson, a neurobiology lesson, I guess, but
I'm gonna Penny, I just want to throw this out there, because if you do have a dog that tends to live on the higher levels of stress and excitement, of either being scared, somewhere in the high arousal states, if your dog lives in that area, you probably want to consider a probiotic or something of that nature, some sort of gut health supplement, because there's more and more research that the gut is affected when the dogs are in the higher level of state. It makes sense. That's why we associate ulcers with stress in humans, and other GI upset in humans. We're all mammals. We all have we have a very similar digestive tract to a dog's. We probably have slightly different balance of digestive bacteria in our gut, but it's still an issue. And your dog potentially not be taking food because their stomach is slightly upset, because they're living in this level of high arousal. And adding in something like a probiotic will just help keep that flora balanced in a more natural state.
I forgot to spotlight you, so I
Oh,
apologize for that.
that's okay.
But
I'm just
yes,
sitting.
we are not vets. However, we've had a lot of experience.
And
And
if your
if you're
dog's stomach
concerned
is
that your
chronic,
dog is that high arousal for too long, definitely that's something to talk to your vet about.
and just be aware, if they're in that kind of high arousal where I can't take food on a regular basis, they're not going to be motivated to use food as a reward for training. And it's time to talk to somebody or us about what can be done in that situation. And that applies for barking as well. Today, Nick was, I'm just going to use this as an example. Today, Nick and I were out doing a training, and Nick has been in high hunting mode since he had the cat encounter yesterday, and the cat squirrel encounter yesterday. And so he was air scenting like crazy before we left. He was snapping at flies, trying to catch the fly in his mouth, which he only does that when he's in super high arousal, super high hunt mode. And he wasn't doing anything bad. He was just, I'm entertaining myself. I need to fulfill this need to look for food. But he wouldn't take food, even if I did some of our food games where I make it more animated for him. He wouldn't catch it, he wouldn't chase it. So it was more about the other aspects of hunting. It was about, you know, scenting and looking for, sighting, seeking the food. So we were meeting with the client, and Nick was on the ground next to me, and somebody started walking by, and I hear this low and everybody says your service dog can't growl. Well, this was a very low pitched, we're outside, and it was very much a communication from him to me that, Mom, I'm not comfortable at the moment. So rather than reaching for food in that situation, which, you know, was first instinct even for me with Nick, I reached down and I comforted him, and and that was what he needed. That was what brought him back down. And sometimes knowing these techniques will help with your counter conditioning. So instead of just, you know, yes, we do want to throw food at them. I'm not going to say no, we don't. We do. But we also need to think if we're really having it, if our dog is really hyper aroused for any reason, we might need to look at something else that will also help work to calm them down. And there are some things that we can do where we don't have to be like right on top of our dog, touching our dog 100% of the time. It's just know that they're out there, and we will discuss them as needed. They can help with the counter conditioning and desensitization.
All right, with that, shall we get into our game of the day? As you can see, Cindy and I both know a lot about counter conditioning, desensitization stuff. We're happy to talk to you about it more. Trying to get my pins set. There we go. And Ashlyn did want to say that Daisy is the same way, and that's very, very common. A lot of dogs sound vicious, even when they're not. Daisy's like Belle in that aspect of she really is just all friendly, but sounds vicious. So I have a video that I think went out in the Facebook group this morning of the game that we're going to play, but Belle is raring and ready to go. So I'm going to turn my camera so that we can play it live and you can see that. And then if we have anyone who's brave enough to take a stab at doing it live with their dogs, we will do that kind of like we do in the Account Buddies training session. So I'll do it quickly with Belle, showing you how to do it. And then if you want to try a live version at the moment, you can. You don't have to. So I'm actually going to do it twice because I'm going to show you the difference in ways that can work. Let me get my camera positioned correctly so that you can see.
Penny, can I just say DPT isn't just for humans. Dogs can benefit from it too.
Right. All right, so there you can see the window. Hopefully it's not too bright. Actually, I'm going to try to go a little bit closer.
I like the mop.
Can you see the window now? No.
Yes.
Now you can. All right. So handy dandy treats. So if your dog is not at the window, you can walk them there with you. My goal would be like the dog is already looking out the window, so I'm going to give her a couple of treats, hopefully to keep her there a minute. Stay. So she's at the window, right? And pretend she's barking. She's not going to do it anymore. There's nothing out there, but pretend she's barking. So my goal would be to come over, get her attention. Hey, Bubba. She wants the food, so I might give her food there, but then I'm going to lead her away. And as soon as I get her away, I'm going to toss some food for her to scatter on and keep her busy for a minute. That's either going to let the distraction pass, or it's going to let her get calmed down and give me a time to do something else. So yesterday we were just leading them away with the food. Today we're tossing the food for them to do it. So there's one alternative. I'm going to do it real quickly again with the food just to show you again. So she's up there. She would be barking out the window. Bark, 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 bark. I'm going to lead her away with my food and scatter it on the floor. So if you're super opposed to doing it with food, don't want to toss food on the floor, there are other ways you can do it, like you can use a toy. The problem with a toy is that toys are going to make your dog more excited. So if they're already excited because daddy's coming in the front door, the toy is going to make them even more excited. So you have to kind of weigh your pros and cons there. But if they're fearful, sometimes the favorite toy can be conditioned to give them comfort, and sometimes that'll work to lead them away from the area. So they may not be able to follow food or a hand target, but they might follow the toy, and then you can throw the toy, and she grabbed it before I could even throw it. But my goal would be to then throw the toy after they get it. So I'm going to lead her away with the toy and then throw it for her to run and jump and get it. So that is our game of the day. Does anybody have any questions about that? Or does anybody want to try it live?
Well, my dog is broken right now. He's only taking select items of food and only on he's back to that again. He's demanding cheese. So we're not even going to try it today.
Anybody else? Anybody got a dog that's not sleeping?
Pippin was, but he just woke up, so maybe.
Earl, try it.
Okay, Julie, go ahead.
You need
Pippin's
to
waking up.
highlight Julie.
I'm working on it. So as others have pointed out, this is very much like the look at that game. And this is really, that is what it is. It's look at that. And I call it the latte version, which is look at that, then enrichment. You know, because Julie's trying to point to Earl, hey, look out there. And he glances out there and there's nothing out there, right? So he doesn't want to stare out there. But it's the same kind of thing. Like, he's excited. He wants to play.
Well, that is the entry into the real world, the rest of the world.
Right. And so then she got him to go away to get the toy. Perfect, Julie. That's exactly what we want to practice when there's a distraction. And I mean, if the distraction is overexciting, a toy could be your lifesaver in getting that dog's focus back on you if the goal is they're going to get the toy and then interact with you. If the toy brings their excitement up, now, like, I have to be careful. If I were to grab a tennis ball with Belle when she was already overexcited, she would get even more excited. But I can grab one of her stuffy squeaker toys and it'll make her want to engage with me because she knows those toys are not any fun unless she's playing with me with them.
The other thing to keep in mind is you can control the energy of the toy. You might not be able to do it in the initial moment of engaging them with a toy, but you might have to get pretty animated to engage the toy when they're in that mode. But once you get them engaged with the toy, you can use the toy to bring their level of excitement down.
Exactly.
To a more manageable level where you can then get the dog, help the dog learn to control. The other thing that's really something to be aware of with this process, which this is a feature of it that I like, is it does teach, because you're working on teaching the dog self-regulation, how to not be over aroused, how to be, hey, yeah, I need to be alert, but I can control my emotions a little bit. You will find that you will get a variety of different arousal levels and a lot more self-regulation, and your dog will, instead of going from bark 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 or nothing, there will be a whole range in there from or I'm staring at the door to ignoring it to full on. You know, they're going to have their moments. They're like everybody else. They're going to yell and scream at times. So teaching them this way really teaches them to self-regulate their emotions. And it's a huge part of counter conditioning for this. And I really like what I'm seeing with Robin and Pippin.
We're
Yeah,
trying.
you guys are doing great.
We're trying. I've not done anything like this on purpose before. Not like this. Okay.
Well, he's doing well with it,
Good boy. Ready?
which is why this game works so well, whether you're tossing the treats or tossing the food.
Up.
The reason it works so well is because it activates their natural biological desire to play or to interact with the environment. So, I mean, scatter feeding activates the seeking system. Play even activates that seeking system a little bit, but then play is going to change the emotion. So, if they're fearful of the thing, play can change the emotion a lot faster than food can. As long as we can control the arousal level we're getting,
That's right.
matching the dog where they're at and helping to bring them down.
If you're activating that seeking, which is what they're hunting, and their barking part of their hunting sequence, if you're activating the seeking system, whether it's through play or over arousal, the reward is in those actions. And they often, as soon as they start eating, those emotions they basically go away. And so it's like when you go to open a Christmas present, you've been staring at the box under the Christmas tree for a month, and you finally get to open it. There's all that anticipation with opening the present. Then you open the present, and it doesn't matter how much you want it. There's always that little bit of letdown. And that's kind of what happens with the food a little bit. And but it's important to be aware of what's going on, so you know that when you're changing their emotional state, what you're doing.
All right, Cindy, is your video off so that you can show us
if
your
I can share
video tip?
Yeah.
Our video tip of the day involves thinking about alternative things for recording. And Cindy's going to talk to us a little bit more about this, but it's like in this day and age, we always have a phone on us, almost always. And so the phone is the easy option, but we have to remember it's not the only option. So like you saw Belle today playing live on a Zoom, I've done a lot of that to create videos that I wanted to save, short little videos that I captured on Zoom. If I need to get a video from further away in the training room, it's easier for me to set up the camera or set up my laptop and start a Zoom, because I get that wider angle and I can get further away and still see my screen big enough to know if I'm showing up. So in that situation, Zoom can be a great way to record your training sessions if need be.
Okay, it says my video is disabled and I can't do anything about it, but the host has to do something about it.
I wonder if I accidentally disabled it.
I think you did.
I can ask you to start it. Try that.
Do you need to turn mine off? Because I don't know if I turned
No,
mine
yours
on.
is fine. Yours shouldn't interfere. Well, Ashlyn does say that she rewards for just the glance. Oh, you shared your screen and all of my stuff went away.
Wait. Let me try that again.
Yeah, don't share yet.
Tell me when you're ready for me.
So Ashlyn says she reward the glance at the window. Man, I can't see it with the participant screen open.
I reward for just a glance at the window if there's nothing out there. I use food in a hand target when I'm away from the distraction. So if her dog looks at the door, she'll reward the dog for looking at the door and have them I think either come back or come towards her away from the distraction.
Okay.
Right. And I mean, that's what we want to work on. Eventually, we don't want to have to go to our dog. But right now in the training stages, we have to make sure we're getting our dog's attention. And so going to them is very important. And then once they know the name of the game, like I don't have to go to Belle when she's up there by the window. She'll come back to me when I say my cue word, which we're going to get into later in the week. But, they automatically learn to come back or come to the area where the scatter feed is happening because they've learned the game.
Let me give an example of what you're going to end up with. So oftentimes when Nick starts hearing, it's been a little bit backslid lately, but oftentimes when Nick hears something out the front door, he will go stand by the front door and stare at the front door and target just below the doorknob with his nose at the front door. And he's not barking, he's not making noise. I will mark and reward that because I am happy that he's telling me I want to bark. There's something out there. He's communicating his need to let me know something's out there, but he's not making a big fuss. So that is what we're kind of working towards. And we do get there, and it's going to be up and down and back and forth throughout the process. It's not linear, but you will.
That is exactly what we're working towards. Yes.
Then this
Julie has
would
her hand
work
up.
for healing alerts.
Who has their hand up?
Julie does. I didn't hear what Robin said though either.
That this would work for setting up hearing alerts then.
Yes,
Yes.
it
Or
would.
in other things. I didn't do steps for it. I did it sloppy, I guess.
Yep. I teach healing alerts almost identical. A little bit different because you're not so worried about the emotions, but yes.
Okay.
So Julie's camera went off and her hand is still up. So I don't know if you need something or not, Julie.
Oh, no, I don't know what I did. I'm still
All right.
learning this phone. I don't need anything.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure you didn't before we move on.
Thank you.
All right. So we are going to then move on to our video tip of the day, which involves, like I said, using unusual things. And so like my big unusual is either to do Zoom, which I will do if I'm going to leave the dogs home alone once in a while. I'll start up a Zoom so I can check on them on my phone, or my tablet I use a lot as well. My tablet only connects to the Wi-Fi, but it allows me to get the videos to YouTube. So, I mean, those are great alternatives, but there's a lot more unusual ones out there. So Cindy, go ahead and tell us about that.
Okay. Let me know if it shares. Is it showing anything?
It did. I was just about to spotlight you just before you shared, because
Oh,
last time
do you
other
want me
people
to
couldn't see the
share and-
share.
Look,
Can you guys see the share now? Okay, so it says your shared screen can only be seen by host and co-host. So hold on. Let me make you a host so that you can actually share and everyone can see it. All right, you probably have to accept that and then go ahead and share your screen.
I'm looking to see where it says to
You
accept.
may not have to, because I just made you
Okay.
co-host. It says you're there, so try sharing your screen now.
Set this up so I can see all. You want to pull. You want to play tug.
Okay. Are-
Now can you guys see her screen? Hey, it's got me on there.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to play this. This is my messy apartment, my cluttered, messy apartment, because I always need to throw crap away, and I keep boxes to throw crap away, and I don't do it. So anyways, I'm going to move this. This was a training session that I captured on my security cameras that I use to monitor my dogs. And so this is unedited, and I'm just going to show a couple seconds, but this is something you can do if I can leave this up and have Nick have it available so I can watch what I'm doing, go back and watch some of my trainings. So these were like $20 cameras that I got at when they were doing Prime Days. So as you can have it set up, so
Security cameras are really cheap nowadays. You can get 4
Yeah.
of them for
So I'm going to
30 bucks.
stop. I'm going to stop the screen share if I can get back to Zoom. So that is just, you can get all kinds with various adaptations and various levels of control. These ones were pretty cheap, and they can actually do quite a bit. So that's just a thought on something. You may not get everything you try to get. I noticed, I think it was that particular session, it got all the setup and it got none of the actual training that I was trying to do. So sometimes that does happen. But a security camera, if you have one, is a option that you can use. I've actually even seen on some, I think it was Zach George had one mounted on the top of his house that was showing his backyard, and he was showing the dogs running around in the backyard while he was training a specific dog. And so it's nice because he was able to capture stuff that he wasn't necessarily intending to capture with a camera on the ground. So it's just one other tool that if you have them, I wouldn't go out and buy them specifically for this type of thing. But if you have them for some reason, like I have a crate cam on Nick, so when I leave the house, I set my alerts so that if he moves around in the crate, I get an alert on the phone. So if you have something like that, it's an option to use for training. You could do a Zoom recording and record it and then download the recording and look at it. Like Penny was saying, I use a GoPro quite frequently because that's the easiest thing for me to set up to keep set up and ready to go when we're out and about training. A lot of it is about just being creative with what resources you have. The nice thing is, everybody's got a cell phone now, and every cell phone has a video recorder. So coming up with ways to use your phone to record is a great way to keep your training videos going. And again, it's not about sharing them with other people. It's about having a record so that you can see what you're doing. And if you need to get feedback, you could, like, I could take a video of something I was doing it and post in a couple different places online, and I'll get feedback with a wide variety of responses based on where I post it. So it's a good tool, and probably one of the best tools to have around for training. If you're going to spend money on something that's going to benefit you long term for training, a video camera is definitely up there.
One of the nice things about using the security camera is a lot of times our barking is happening at the front door. And where do we position our security cameras naturally? At the front door. So then we're not necessarily setting up a distraction. We may have seen, maybe a distraction happened. Maybe UPS came and our dog went berserk and we're like, oh man, what can I do better next time? And we can go back and just replay that footage and all right, where did I make my mistakes? What can I change? What little thing can I add to make it easier for my dog? And so going back to that management and the being able to lure them away to get them to come back to us versus stay in that area where they're barking and all the good stuff we've been practicing. I have a client who used her Ring doorbell to show how her dog exited the house, walked down the sidewalk, and got into the car. And I thought, what a great idea. We have this technology around us everywhere. If we can only remember to, stop back and review it once in a while, because normally if nothing bad happens, if nobody breaks into your house, you don't look at that video camera pointed at your front door, right? You only look at it when you need to. But it's there, exactly. So keep that in mind when it comes to dog training. So this is day 3. Tomorrow is day 4, and we'll be looking at developing stronger communication with our dogs. So stay tuned and check in tomorrow. The blogs will go out in the morning. The video will come out in the evening. And of course, our taping of the video happens at 3:30 every day this week. So if you have any questions, let us know in the group or reach out to us.